Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to have a talk about Zacian V. Now, we've talked about Zacian V. We saw bits of Zacian V back in August at the Pokemon World Championships. It's now the end of November. But we finally have a nice clear look. And the lovely Pokemon folks have actually gone and been good enough to show us a nice clear English image, so we don't even have to bother with any of that translation malarkey. So, I suppose this might actually be what our parents were telling us when they meant, or said, that all good things come to those who wait. So Zacian V then, well, it's got 220 HP, we knew that. That is gigantic, it's a basic Pokemon, and it's better than the big basic GXs, like for instance Wishy Washy GX. We finally know that it is a metal Pokemon, which of course, if you played the games through you will know, although come on, it's got a sword in its mouth. Probably we could have guessed that. And being a metal Pokemon's quite nice. It means you're hitting weakness against stuff like Gardevoir and Sylveon, which continues to see a fair bit of play. And it means you've got stuff like Metal Frying Pan to take away your weakness, which is quite nice. And I'm going to spoil a card that we're going to be looking at tomorrow in a moment. It's Metal Patch, or Metal Saucer. Still working on exactly the best translation for that, but long story short, it is Aqua Patch for metal Pokemon. So it means that we can get a bit of extra energy on there nice and fast. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, when I say this is a wonderful thing. We will talk about this properly in a video tomorrow, but I had to at least mention it today. So we like being a metal Pokemon. Being a metal Pokemon is very good indeed. You got a weakness to fire, which really sucks with all these welded X running around, but I suppose you can't have it all. And you've got that resistance to grass, which seems to now be the standard for all metal Pokemon in Sword and Shield. We were unsure if it would end up being on all of them, but it seems very much like it is going to be. And then we got the retreat cost of 2, which we don't really like, boo, hiss, etc. But it was really the ability for Zacian that we were missing. This is the one piece of information where we were going, yeah, but what does it actually do? Well, good news, ladies and gentlemen. Now we know. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 3 cards of your deck and attach any number of Metal Energy cards you find there to this Pokemon. Put the other cards into your hand. If you use this ability, your turn ends. Oh, now this is nice. Now it ends your turn, alright, more on that in a minute. But if you can find a way to try and just stack the energy on top of your deck, then all of a sudden, you can be just attaching free energy. Now we'll get there in a minute, but we can already see that the attack costs free energy. So here, all we need to do is use this ability, cross our fingers, and then we're off and rolling. Except we don't actually need free energy, right? Because turn 1, you attach an energy, use the ability. If you hit a single energy, turn 2, you attach an energy, boom, you're off. We don't even need that new Pokemon item. The one that accelerates energy, we don't even need it. Because we can get the energy on quite nicely without it. This is perfect. This is basically our way of going, look, we can get this on easily. We can get rolling. We can be attacking very, very quickly. It means that if you go first, you should be able to get attacking pretty much straight away. It's perfect. It's wonderful. Because you see, there is a rule change coming over in Japan, which hasn't been confirmed over here, but it's coming over here, alright? And what it says is that the player going first, on their first turn of the game, is not allowed to play any supporter cards. And we already know that the player that goes first isn't allowed to attack, which means that our options on turn 1 of the game are fairly poor. Well, the great thing is, this is an ability. And there is nothing against using abilities on your first turn of the game going first. So that's what you do here. I adore this ability. This is a kind of ability whereby going first is going to give you a huge advantage. Even if you cannot find any way to stack your deck, you are still going to have a decent chance. As long as you're playing enough energy, you're going to have a decent chance of being able to just draw into at least one energy here. And like I've said, if you can hit a single solitary energy, you'll be absolutely rolling. I adore it. Now, one card that we don't have at the moment, which I really wish we still did, was Research Record. Research Record came along in Call of Legends. It was largely a reprint set. There were a few new cards like this, and this was a doozy. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck, put as many of them as you like back on the top of your deck in any order, then put the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. Imagine if we still had Research Record. Any metal energy you find, you leave there. Any cards that are not metal energy, you just whack them straight on the bottom of your deck. It's beautiful. Recycle would work quite nicely here. Flip a coin. If you flip yourself a heads, you get to put any card from your discard pile on top of your deck. And obviously here we're thinking metal energy. But the fact is we don't have great options at the moment. Now, remember, we're not using attacks, we're not using supporters. So we're really focused on items. And there's kind of one, really, that hasn't rotated out, and it's Pokenav. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may reveal a Pokemon or energy and put it into your hand. Put the other cards back in any order. But this is just the top 3 cards, which is what you're going to be revealing anyway. So I suppose it will give you a heads up as to what you're going to hit. The other thing you can do here is if you find a Pokemon, you pick the Pokemon up, because if you see an energy, you want to leave it on top of your deck to accelerate it. But if you find yourself with a Pokemon, you put it in your hand to slightly increase the chances of hitting an energy. So then it's essentially if there's an energy in the top 4 cards of your deck, rather than an energy in the top 3 cards of your deck. I'll be honest with you, we're kind of clutching at straws. We want Research Record here. But maybe in the near future, we'll get some other cards that allow us to do this, and then that's going to give us a huge advantage. Either way, if you're playing enough energy, this is great. And if you're going first on turn 1, why not give it a go? You're ending your turn anyway. And then we get to the attack, and we knew what the attack did, but we didn't know how much the attack was going to cost. Well, now we do, ladies and gentlemen. We know that the attack costs 3 metal energy. Now, generally speaking, free metal energy would be a little bit awkward. We could use Magnezone, but then again, Magnezone is a stage 2, and that's kind of awkward. And we could use Solgaleo Prism Star, that's really good at accelerating energy, but is also, it's an attack, and you've got to get all the energy in your discard, and it's good, and I built a deck around it and piloted it to a bit of success here and there, but it wasn't exactly some phenomenal, all-encompassing powerhouse. But we don't care anymore, because we've got the item card I mentioned earlier, and we've got the ability. And these two things together are going to mean that we're really not worried. The energy will come on here pretty quickly. And then we're doing 230 damage. And 230 damage is redonkulous, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely redonkulous. To a point. You see, the big issue we've got here is this. If you're against GXs, even up to stage 1 GXs like Naganadel, boom, going down. Lovely. And as a fun side note, Caldeo GX, as I've mentioned in a couple videos, is immune to GXs and EXs, not Vs, so you'll get him as well. But then we get to tag teams, things like Reshiram and Charizard. They got 270. You ain't getting them. Mewtwo and Mew, also 270, ain't getting them. Pikachu and Zekrom, 240, and a resistance to metal to boot. You ain't getting them. You will get Pokemon V, mind you. I mean, the biggest in terms of HP we've seen from the Pokemon V so far is Snorlax. And Snorlax has 220. So the good news is, against any Pokemon V, you will... Well, no, that's not fair. Against any Pokemon V that has so far been revealed, you will be getting a nice one-hit KO. Although, to be clear, right, when we get up to Pokemon VMAX... Yeah, you ain't getting Pokemon VMAX. To be fair, I should mention the biggest is actually Zamazenta at 230, not Snorlax at 220. But it doesn't matter because you're getting Zamazenta as well because you are doing 230. So that's quite nice. So it's basically an attack that goes right. GXs, except for stage 2s, down. V, down. But if you look at something like Snorlax VMAX, you're not even close. So VMAX and Tag Team, no, but basically everything else, yes. That's where we are. But it's on a basic Pokemon. The energy is super easy to get on there, and you're giving up 2 prizes, but you got 220 HP. And you should be taking 2 prizes here. Yeah, I'm loving it. Even the weakness isn't really a big problem, because you've got Metal Frying Pan. So you can even take away your weakness. And if you're telling me there's a basic Pokemon with 220 HP, no weakness, that can hit 230 really easily, I'm loving it. I am absolutely loving it. If we get anything like Research Record back, it's going to be just plain over the top dumb. But as it is, I'm kind of leaning towards this being a 5 Wossie card. I think this is a really good card. I think this might be the best Pokemon V that we've seen so far. It's certainly a very, very good card. Or maybe I'm overrating it. Maybe it's not as good as I think. I don't know. You tell me. There's a comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where you can check out a whole bunch of videos on games that don't have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.